Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. I hope all is well. It's Thursday, the sun is out, and Manchester City are about to bid for Declan Rice. Bit late today, this video. I've been on the golf course, and I think I was about the whole 13 when I looked at my phone. Had a scroll through Twitter and saw the meltdown had started after David Ornstein and a few other journalists got the story that Manchester City were about to bid for Declan Rice. Now, we don't know how much that bid is yet or if it's gone in, but it certainly throws a little bit of a spanner in the works when it comes to Arsenal. Now, we know Arsenal have had two bids turned down, the second of which was for a club record 90 million. You would suggest that Manchester City are certainly going to go in higher than that for their first bid because they know what West Ham have rejected for already from Arsenal. So you would expect it's going to be near enough the £100 million mark. And then it leaves Arsenal with a decision to make. Arsenal will bid again. I'm sure they'll bid again. The expectation is that they will bid again. It just depends on how much that bid is and how far they are willing to go. Unfortunately, if you're going to get into a bidding war with Manchester City, realistically, there's only one winner there. There is a slight caveat to that in terms of player preference, and player preference could be key here. Now, we know Declan Rice in front of us there is keen on a move to Arsenal, has been very open to the idea of a move to Arsenal. Will that be enough to get the deal done? Who knows? The lure of playing for as much as you might want to play for Arsenal and are open to playing for Arsenal, if Manchester City come knocking with Pep Guardiola, the treble winners, the best team in Europe, the best team in the world, let's face it, come knocking, it's probably pretty hard to say no to that. We've seen a lot of players struggle to say no to that in the past when they probably should have done. Calvin Phillips, a case in point last summer. Now, Declan Rice, you would think would get in this Manchester City team. Where exactly, I'm still not entirely sure. They've just somewhere they're about to sign Kovacic. They've got Rodri in that area, but we know what City do. They pack their squad with top quality players, and clearly they believe they've got a chance of signing Declan Rice. They've been sort of floating around in the background for a while on this one. I think everyone's been expecting them to get involved at some point, and today is the day that they are going to do that. And yeah, the reaction's not been great, as you would expect on social media. I think you need to look at this a few ways. It is frustrating. I've said it myself that I feel like if Declan Rice is absolutely the priority, which we know he is, to be fair, for Arsenal, that sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and try and get the deal done as quickly as possible. And they haven't been able to do that, and that has left the door open for other clubs. But also, you look at it from another perspective and look at it from a West Ham point of view, they were always going to try and drag this out for as long as possible because it suited them more. They didn't just want one team involved in Declan Rice. They don't care where he goes to. They just want to get the most money for him, and just sort of having one team involved was never ideal for them. They wanted this situation where you've got Manchester City involved, Manchester United involved, and Arsenal involved, because you want to get the best price possible for a player who's got 2 years left on his contract and is your captain. You don't want to just give him away to the first club that comes knocking at the first bid. So they were always going to drag this out for as long as possible. And they've done that. And now this is, it's worked out perfectly for them because the price is going to go up and they're going to get, you would think, well over 100 million for Declan Rice. It's just going to be really intriguing how Arsenal react to this. How much do they want him? How far are they willing to go? We saw what they did in January. They absolutely wanted Mykhailo Mudryk, but they weren't prepared to go as far as Chelsea were. And so they backed away and Chelsea got the deal done. Will that happen again this summer? We'll have to wait and see. I think it's slightly different with Mudryk because the way I look at it, he wasn't coming in to be a guaranteed starter in the first team by any means. Arsenal had the players, you had Martinelli on the left, you had Xhaka on the right. He wasn't going to come in and walk into the first team. Declan Rice was going to come in and walk into the first team and be this huge figure in the team, this leader, absolutely trying to take the club to the next level. So it's slightly different from the Mudryk situation, I think, because he's so essential. He's been the priority. He's the player they really want to come in and take the team to the next level. Mudryk wasn't that. Mudryk was a player who had huge potential, but they didn't, he wasn't someone who's going to walk in and immediately improve things. So that might convince them to push forward a little bit more and try and push Manchester City as far as they can. Player preference is clearly going to be key here. I think, now we know that Declan Rice is very keen on a move to Arsenal, but like I said, when Manchester City come knocking, when Pep Guardiola comes knocking, I think you'd be mad as a footballer to not listen to what they've got to offer. So I think player preference could be key here. And it's just, unfortunately, it's another transfer saga. We were hoping it was going to be an early one, and one that's done relatively early. It's not been a case. West Ham very much in a strong position now, and it's going to be intriguing to see how Arsenal react. Let me know what you guys think of it. I can see how a lot of you think of it in terms of, certainly on my other social media channels, and I can understand there's a lot of frustration out there at this one. But I think, again, you've got to try and bring a bit of perspective to the situation and look at what West Ham are doing and why they're doing it. And I think they've got every right to do it. And I think the way they've played it so far this summer has been perfect. And it's going to mean they're going to get an awful lot of money for their star man, which is what they wanted at the start of the summer. So I think I saw a really good point on Twitter. I think it was Yankee Gunner Elliot said it on Twitter. And he said, if anyone expected you were going to go and sign a 24-year-old England international, probably the biggest signing of the summer in the Premier League, anyone thought you were going to just go and get that done smoothly without anyone else getting involved, then you're kidding yourselves almost. And I think it's a very good point. This was always going to be a difficult one to do because of the stature of the player and because of the other teams who are involved and because of what West Ham, how important he was to West Ham. It was always going to be a difficult one to do, and it's proven to be that. And it's not over by any means. Absolutely not over. This is just a new development, and it will be really interesting to see how Arsenal react to it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Right, Kai Havertz in better news, if that's what you want to call it, because I know a lot of you don't actually want the Kai Havertz, so it might not be better news for some of you, but for a lot of you, you're very excited about the potential of Kai Havertz coming for Arsenal, and that one is now very close to completion. The deal has been agreed with Chelsea. It's going to be around sort of 60 million, rising to around sort of 65 potentially, with add-ons for Kai Havertz. That deal has been agreed now in principle, but it's all about sort of getting the deal done. Havertz, I think, is away on holiday at the moment, which might hold things up a little bit in terms of his medical. So Simon Collins at the Standard was saying that Arsenal might even try and get the medical done abroad just to try and wrap it up quickly, which might be a pretty wise idea. Myself and Sam were talking about it on yesterday's show. So thank you very much for all the lovely comments for that on that show yesterday that me and Sam done. If you haven't followed Sam yet, please do go and follow him because he's a fantastic reporter. Really is one of the best out there when it comes to Arsenal. And you absolutely should be following him 100%. So if you haven't done it, have a flick over to Twitter after this, give him a follow, and he'll provide you with some really, really good news throughout the summer. Excellent reporter. And lots of nice comments from that show. So thank you very much for that. And while we were speaking yesterday, we said that was a deal that was potentially going to be the quickest one to complete for Arsenal. And it's proved that way, or it's headed that way now, with the deal being agreed with Chelsea and a medical very much imminent for Kai Havertz. Where he fits in this Arsenal system is going to be really interesting to see. We talked about it yesterday. What position will Mikel Arteta have in his mind for Kai Havertz? Is he going to come in as a starter? Could he be an option for that left 8 position? We're going to have to wait and see. But he's a player that has very much divided opinion so far. But I'm willing to give Arteta and Edu the trust on this one. They've ID'd a lot of good players in the past, and if they think he can come in and improve the team and improve the squad, then I don't see why he can't. He's certainly a talented player. We know that. We saw what he did with Leverkusen before he went to Chelsea. It didn't quite work out as he would have wanted at Chelsea or how Chelsea would have wanted it to work out, but he stepped up in big moments. He scored the winning goal for him in a Champions League final. He scored the winning goal for them in the World Club Cup as well. So big moments he has delivered for them. And whether he can do that for Arsenal, we'll have to wait and see. And where he's going to play, I think it's going to be a really interesting development as pre-season goes on and we start to get a bit of a sort of indication from what Mikel Arteta's doing in terms of what he sees for Kai Havertz. Emile Smith Rowe, big day for him today. He is in action for the England U21s. Their tournament gets underway, I think 5 o'clock kickoff today. They're playing the Czechs. So big summer for Emile, I think. He really wants to play in this tournament and do well and make a big impact and sort of tee himself up well for the new season. Arsenal will be watching closely how he gets on. He'll be linking up with the squad after the tournament, of course. And, I think it's a really important summer for him. It's really important that I think if he can have a good tournament, then he can go over and have a good pre-season tour with Arsenal, then he's going to put himself in a really good position to make a big impact this season. So he's playing today at 5 o'clock. Nuno Tavares played yesterday. Shock defeat for Portugal, actually lost 2-0 against Georgia, co-host Georgia. So that was a surprise. Tavares played full 90 minutes at left back. Fabio Vieira, of course, not playing for Portugal. He pulled out. He was going to be captain for them at the tournament, but he pulled out just ahead of it because of was described as a medical issue. I think it's an illness with Fabio Vieira, but Arsenal believe he'll be back training within a couple of weeks, which is a good thing. It means he'll be back for pre-season because I think him, like Smith Rowe, needs to have a good pre-season. I think it's really important. He was injured for all of pre-season last season. He needs to hit the ground running. So hopefully that's right. And he is only out for a couple of weeks. He said, I tried everything to be ready to play for my country. I love to play for Portugal, but unfortunately it was not possible. I didn't feel on top to play and help the team, and the medical staff agreed. The most important thing is my health, and this precaution was taken to reduce any risks. Now is the time to rest and be 100% ready for pre-season and next season. Now, I think he knows equally as we do that this is a really important summer for Fabio Vieira. He had a good start to life at Arsenal and then tailed off pretty dramatically during the second half of the season. Was very disappointing over the second half of the season. There's still a lot of question marks about Vieira, whether he can cope with the Premier League, whether he's got the quality to cope with the Premier League, whether he can handle it physically. So he needs to have a good summer. He needs to have a good start to the season and sort of silence those doubters, because Arsenal spent a lot of money on Fabio Vieira, lots of money on him, and he needs to deliver and become a really important, maybe not first team player, but a really important squad player for Mikel Arteta. Okay, so right, let's go into some of your questions now, shall we, on this one. And we're going to start with, let's see, who did I put down? Lewis, who says, Man City entering the race to sign Rice officially is annoying. You're right, it is definitely annoying. Do you think if he chooses City, brackets, why wouldn't you? That will mean Partey and Xhaka will stay. Even if we went for Caicedo instead, he doesn't have Rice's experience, and think losing those players will crush our attempts at maintaining a Champions League push. Yeah, I agree. Look, Granit, I think Granit goes. I'd be very surprised if he goes, whatever happens this summer. I think if Arsenal can get at least one player through the door, then Granit goes, and he has the blessing of the club to do that. He's ready to go. I know he was. We were all there at the end of last season. He said his goodbyes. And, I'd be surprised if he is still there. Thomas Partey is an interesting one, because I just think if you don't get Rice, I don't see how you can allow Thomas Partey to leave. I really don't. I think it would be too big a risk with the Champions League. Yes, Jorginho's there, but if you don't get Rice, and even if you got, like you said, Lewis, I think even if you got Caicedo, a younger player, someone like Caicedo, who would be very hard to get now anyway, because all the focus has been on Rice, and Chelsea have kind of moved ahead in the race for Caicedo. It's not saying it's impossible, but it would be a difficult one to do. But so whoever you get in, if you miss out on Rice, I think it'd be a big, big risk to lose Partey as well. So, I can't say for certain that it will change Arsenal's plans in terms of the outgoings. I don't think it will for Granit, but I think for Thomas Partey, there's certainly up for debate in terms of what you do with him. And SM Comedy here says as well, he said, I heard Partey wants to leave Arsenal, not the other way around. See, that's not what I've heard. I've heard Partey is very happy at Arsenal, and he wanted to stay, or wants to stay, or is happy to stay and play in the Champions League. The whole reason he signed for Arsenal was to get the club back in the Champions League. Now they're there, he wants to play in that. But having said that, if you've got a bunch of Saudi clubs offering you unbelievable wages and you're a 30-year-old, then that is a highly tempting offer. So, that might well turn his head. But from a footballing point of view, my understanding of Thomas Partey was that he's, absolutely happy to stay at Arsenal and wants to play in the Champions League with Arsenal. That was the whole reason he joined the club. But, money talks at the end of the day. And if someone's offering you unbelievable money that will set you up for life and your family up for life, then that might change your thinking of a player. So we'll wait and see on that. And lastly, just another Lewis, actually a second Lewis, who this isn't a question on Arsenal, but he says, any plans to make this a podcast, Charles? I know it may seem like an Arsenal podcast scene is overinflated already, but maybe worth it. Would be helpful for me because I can't really listen on YouTube. Yes, well, yesterday's show was the first show that I did upload to all the generic usual podcast hosts. So it is on Apple, it's on Acast, Spotify. I think I've got to wait a couple of days before it drops into Google, before Google pick up the channel because it's a new channel. But these will soon, if not already, be available on podcasts certainly soon after it goes live on YouTube. So do keep your eyes out. And if that is how you want to listen to these shows, then you will be able to just search for Inside Arsenal. I'll put the links up as well, and you will be able to download it as a podcast. And there'll be more podcast stuff coming from me as the summer and certainly the start of the season progresses as well. And there'll be announcements about that as we head on towards the start of the season. So keep your eyes peeled. But for now, yes, if you want to download these in a podcast and hunt around on the usual podcast sites, and you should find it anyway. I've done my best to upload it. I am technically awful, so I might have mucked it up, but it was there yesterday, and hopefully this one will be there as well. So thank you very much for your question, Lewis, and thank you very much, everyone, for watching today. Anything you've agreed with, disagreed with, as usual, please do let me know. Fire in some questions that you want answered tomorrow. I'll go through a few of them, pick them for tomorrow's show. Until then, have a very good day, everyone, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.